So you have been campaigning on this for, Scott, 2003, I think it began. Am I right?
Well, it was that meeting I referred to when I told them what they were doing was illegal. That was in 2003, October 2003. So 18 years.
Wow. And I've seen
is it 18?
Yeah. Yeah, 18 years. I've seen estimates that like it's the how much they well, I don't want to say conned, but how much they took from customers was was 600 million pounds up to potentially on I saw on your blog.
Well, possibly over $1 billion, because what happened was HFC. I mean, this is also the source of the whole financial crisis. Not my story, but involving this bank, HFC Bank, because they're a subprime lender, so they weren't like a normal bank where you could go in and cash check and so on. But they lent. They had branches in a certain demographic with poor people, so they lent money to poor people who wouldn't normally be able to get a loan from a bank. So they lent money at a hugely inflated interest rate, subprime lending, that's known as. And they established themselves in the UK in 1975. Now, HSBC purchased HFC Bank in about 2003, 2000, and it's an originally American bank. It's called Household Finance Corporation. And they were the biggest subprime lenders in America. And it was the HSBC purchase of HFC that legitimized subprime lending. All the other banks thought, this is the way to go. And it was subprime lending. It was those toxic mortgages which brought down the world economy, because the banks were selling these packaged deals to each other, which were toxic and they were full of rubbish. And in fact, HSBC issued its first, this was the beginning of the financial crisis. Most people refer to the bank Paribas, NMBNP Paribas, freezing two accounts as the beginning of the financial crisis. It wasn't. It was an HSBC profit warning in February 2007, which was the beginning of the scare that set the ball in motion to crash the world economy. And it was HSBC purchase of HSBC. So when I saw the contract which HFC had with the other firm of solicitors besides my firm, it was obvious. It was just something they'd imported from America, where what they were doing was, it's legal in America to charge contingency fees. That's what the problem was. But I had no reason to believe they haven't been doing it since 1975. So if you go back to 1975, then it will be over £1 billion that they've defrauded from people.
Wow. I mean, that's
sorry,
awful.
go on.
I was just going to say, like, I've heard the charges and the contingency fees, the overdraft fees described as just like a poor tax. That is, it's stealing money from people who don't have it to pay bankers bonuses, basically.
Well, the worst thing they did was, you see, contingency fees. Most people would say, well, that's not so bad. If the idea of contingency fee is the lawyer, say the lawyer sues for £1,000 and wins, the lawyer takes 20% of that £1,000, so £200 for the lawyer's fees, and gives the client £800. But that's not what they did. They added the lawyer's £200 onto the debt, so that they sue you for £1,200. In fact, it was 16.4%. So if you owed them £10,000, which was a fairly average amount, they would add £1,640 to your debt before the solicitors did any work. And some people, if they had the money, they would pay it straight out. So they're paying £1,640 for nothing. The lawyers did nothing except write one letter, which was automated anyway. Now, so contingency fees were illegal anyway. Lawyers were not allowed to charge a percentage of their recoveries. But this was even worse than a contingency fee, because they were adding the costs onto the debt. And I knew when I reported them to the Law Society took nearly a year to reach their decision. And they agreed with me. It was an illegal contingency fee, but they didn't take any action because they said it only happened in a small number of cases. Well, when I left the firm, and bearing in mind we'd only been doing it for about 2 years, when I left the firm, we had 70 to 80,000 cases. And I know the other firm, Reston's, who have been doing it for many years, must have had many more than that. And I also know the department. When I first won the contract, I was head of a department of four other people. But when I left the firm, there were about 30 people in Liverpool doing the work. I mean, it just completely mushroomed and blossomed. I calculated that between the two lawyers, Reston's and Waitman's, they added £44 million a year in illegal charges. Doesn't mean they recovered that amount, but that's how much they added onto people's debts. And on my website, I've got a database. I can't remember how many it is now. Oh, I really can't remember, but thousands and thousands. I've disclosed thousands and thousands and thousands of court cases where they've added these illegal debts. But I'm rushing ahead of myself. So
that's all right.
Have you got any more questions on that?
That's all right. No, I'll stick the link for that sort of that stuff in the description below for anyone who wants to check it out. But
okay, I'll send you the link from my webpage.
That'd be great. The thing that really interests me, because I mean, as you mentioned before, you've gone over this a lot. Like all of the details about it are on your blog, and you can Google about HSBC. I'm more interested in how this kind of happens inside a bank or inside, for example, the Law Society, where they will sit on something for like a year, or they'll, seemingly take their time when it can challenge people in power, or you sort of upset the status quo, or sort of just anything that might rock the boat, essentially. And is this like a standard practice almost within these sorts of institutions that you've seen?
It's all about money. If the Law Society had done their job properly, you see, the Law Society, or the Solicitors Regulation Authority as it became, they have a compensation fund. So all lawyers have to pay a certain levy each year to top up the compensation fund. And the idea of the compensation fund is if a lawyer behaves unlawfully or in a wrong way, I mean, normally they're covered by indemnity insurance, but the insurance won't cover them if they're doing something illegal. So the idea is that the compensation fund will pay out. But this HSBC fraud thing would have wiped out the SRA's compensation fund. So they had to cover it up. They do it all the time. I mean, I've got another website, Corruption UK, and there's a blog on there about Eco House. It was a huge scam. It was a sort of a Ponzi scheme, investment in properties that never materialized. And the lawyers involved were promoting the scam. The money went through their offices. And the SRA found nothing wrong, because again, it would have wiped out their compensation fund. So they are completely corrupt, the SRA. Totally corrupt. So sorry, I'm going to say things like that.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
If you have me on, you're going to have to hear things like that.
No, it's all right. Like, I mean, I'm not exactly like poorly versed in how corrupt the things can get. It's always just it's one of those things that when someone is saying it to you, it's more impactful than when you're reading something. Yeah. I don't know for what reason that is. I'd say it's probably because you're more likely to sort of take in the gravity of something if someone is telling you.
Well, I'll give you an example of the kind of problems I've had. Is at the time I reported Waitman's to the SRA, the CEO of the SRA was a man called Anthony Townsend. Now, he claims later on in my story, he claims he wasn't involved in my complaint at all, but that has to be complete nonsense, because, as I said, if they had followed it through in the way they should have done, it would have wiped out their compensation fund. So of course he knew about it. But anyway, he left, and then he became the complaints commissioner, which is the person who investigates complaints against the FCA. And I had a complaint against the FCA because they're corrupt too. And it was Anthony Townsend who had to investigate so he was investigating a cover-up at the FCA of a cover-up he had also overseen at the SRA. This is this revolving door thing. They have the right people in the right places to it. And then there's a new thing called the British Banking Resolution Service, which is a new thing set up. It's meant to be a tribunal for small businesses if they've got problems with the bank. The chair of that new BBRS is a woman called Samantha Barras. She was the successor to Anthony Townsend. She was the CEO of the SRA after him. And then I followed up with a report against Waitmans to the SRA. I made a complaint against Restons, who were also doing this illegal contract. And the SRA found no evidence at all of Restons having done anything, even though HSBC have paid out £30 million now. The SRA found nothing wrong. Samantha Barras is now chair of the British Banking Resolution Service, who's going to adjudicate people's problems with the banks. It's a joke.
It sounds like a joke.
I'll give you another example of the revolving door. Twice I reported this fraud to City of London Police, and the head chief superintendent in charge of the economic crime unit. The City of London Police are supposed to investigate fraud. They are the main financial fraud police force in the country, and big cases go to them to investigate. And twice I reported this to David Manley, who was the chief superintendent at the economic crime unit, and twice he refused to take any action. In fact, the second time he was sarcastic. He said to me, "Oh, you're saying solicitors charging to recover debts is a fraud," which was not quite what I was reporting. Anyway, he very soon left City of London Police and went to work for HSBC.
Oh, it sounds like a joke. It sounds like a really poorly written, like.
Wait till we get on to Cameron.
Yeah. I mean, he's got. Yeah, we'll get to that. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, or sign up to our mailing list. Thanks a lot to our sponsor, ExpressVPN, the #1 most trusted VPN. Get lightning fast connectivity with servers in 160 locations across 94 countries. Keep your browsing privacy safe with ExpressVPN and get a 35% discount on 12 months of ExpressVPN when you follow the link in the description below. Don't forget my book is now out and available to order on Amazon and on bookshop.org. That's Brexit, the Establishment Civil War. And most importantly, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.